The outcome of local and national political campaigns means a lot to corporations, companies, and even church members. Political discussions inevitably come about at these places, but is it appropriate for your boss or company to urge you to donate or support a political cause or candidate? And is it legal for your clergy to use the pulpit to tell you how to vote? Here to talk about where to draw the line is Dan Eaton, a San Diego attorney that specializes in employment law. Dan, thanks for being here.
Sure, Peggy.
Let's get to the legal side of this issue. Can your boss, can your employer ask you to make a specific donation to a candidate or to a campaign?
Well, Peggy, they can't require you to do so. As far as inviting you to do so, for example, saying here's a candidate you might want to consider, that's different. But it's very clear under California law that an employer cannot require an employee to participate in any specific political activity, and that would include donations.
Now, what if they sort of just suggested it or invite you or say, we, urge you to do this? Is this legal?
Urge becomes closer to the line. Suggest is probably not prohibited, but there is this continuum, and the more an employer intrudes into the political life of its employees, the closer to the line it gets, and therefore potentially violating California law.
And how about, just because I've heard some rumors of this actually happening, if they offer you a financial incentive? We will pay you a bonus if you do this, if we will pay you on your lunch hour to go participate in this campaign.
That becomes a problem because all of a sudden now you're subsidizing an employee's activities and you're implicitly punishing those who don't participate in those activities. And let's get very concrete here. What if an employer specifically reimburses you for a political donation? Well, Peggy, that's money laundering, and that's illegal. The donation has to come freely from the employee out of his or her own funds. It has to be voluntary, and it cannot be reimbursed by the employer.
And you say money laundering, we typically think of that as illegal, illicit drugs, but you can actually do this with political campaigns as well. How come?
Right, and the reason is that when you're talking about money laundering, what you are talking about is hiding essentially the real source of the money. That's essentially the concept of money laundering, even though it's most often associated with drugs. The fact is that if you're trying to hide who the source of the money is, that's illegal, and that is a crime.
How about unions and their members? They encourage people to vote for particular causes.
Perfectly legal, Peggy. The fact is that unions can do that. It's part of their mission, as a matter of fact. But here's the important thing. Members can also opt out of their dues being used for political activities, and many members do.
So then they would just withhold their dues for a particular...
Well, for political activities generally. The Supreme Court has said that members have that right, and many members do exercise it.
What can an employee, union member, or not do if they feel like they are being coerced or otherwise pushed into supporting a political campaign or a political candidate that they don't want to?
Well, Peggy, the first thing is not to call an attorney. As an attorney, I really get a little scared saying that, but to object, simply say, I don't really feel comfortable doing this. And for most employers, that's going to be enough, because California law is very clear that an employee cannot be discharged or threatened with discharge for failing to participate in any particular way that the employer wants its employee to participate politically.
So say no up front before pursuing a...
Say no, and if it goes too far, then eventually, of course, you can call a lawyer, but don't make that your first step.
The first one. Let's talk about churches. Now, pulpit pounding for political causes, legal, not legal?
It's important to make a distinction, Peggy, here between issues on the one hand and political candidates on the other. Dating back to 1954, a little-known senator by the name of Lyndon Johnson of Texas actually proposed the law that was eventually adopted that said 501c3 organizations, including churches, cannot advocate expressly for or against particular political candidates. Why? Because by doing so, you're essentially having these charities subsidize their tax-exempt status, subsidizing political candidates, and that isn't right, and it's a violation of federal law.
But there are things, it is a tax-exempt, we're talking about churches and synagogues, but they can talk on political issues. There's a fine line.
Political issues and ballot initiatives, but they don't have the same freedom that other organizations do. Yes, they can wade into those areas of issues and ballot initiatives, but they have to be very careful that they don't become full-on, primarily focused in the political process. Their primary focus ought to be on making better souls.
And I know there has been some complaints about that, but no actual punishments as far as you know.
Not recently as far as I know, but there are literally hundreds of referrals in any given election cycle according to the IRS, and there are investigations, but no, none that I can think of in recent years has had their status revoked, and that's really where the financial penalty comes in.
All right, we'll have more information on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sure, nice to be here, Peggy.